The following is an Outdoor Channel original production.
Today, stories full of bluster and blubber. First, bravado leads one badge to take down another. Then, a whale of a tale about a sea creature far from home. My name is Randy Nelson, and in my 35-year career as a fishery officer, I became known as the best investigator in British Columbia.
Just leave him out here to rot.
As a best-selling author, I've contacted hundreds of wardens from all over North America to hear their tales.
Fish and wildlife here. See that slow? Look at there. We have a warrant to search your premises.
There's blood on the ground.
These are their case files.
Game warden, put your guns on the ground.
Officer down.
You're under arrest.
As a game warden, you're sworn to uphold the laws and rules and regulations around fish and wildlife. And it's rare that that comes in conflict with another badge.
In this story here, a game warden, a fellow game warden that I work with, got pulled over for speeding, and questions were asked about a salvage tag for an elk.
And what's a salvage tag?
Salvage tag it's a carcass tag for an animal. Most of the time it's a roadkill.
Okay.
It's a way for someone to pick up and harvest and salvage the meat from a roadkill animal.
So there's a means to get, somebody finds a dead deer and they think they can use it, they can get a salvage permit, then
Yes.
your agency will issue it.
Yes, which is not very common. Which then, he was in his personal vehicle. So they didn't realize he was an officer.
Okay.
But he got asked about the salvage tag for an elk. And he said the officer that gave me a salvage tag was wearing green.
So this police officer that stops him claims that he has a salvage tag.
Claimed that he was issued a salvage tag for a roadkill elk.
He just got a huge elk.
That's unusual.
Yeah, it's crazy to come upon. You have yourself a good night.
You too.
So that's where I come into play. After the traffic stop, and gave me a phone call and asked me about it.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, Jesse. Has anybody released any salvage tags lately?
No, we haven't issued one of those for a while. Why?
I didn't think so. I got a story to tell you.
And we weren't wearing green. We were wearing something else. So he was obviously something was afoot there.
Red flags.
Red flags. Red flags pop up. Gives an officer something to work with. Suspicion. So we started making some phone calls, realized no salvage tag was ever issued for an elk. And about the same time, we got a report of 2 elk that were found dead along the side of the road. A walker was walking down a gravel road in the country and found 2 dead elk.
Hi, this is Lisa Fisher. I'm at the end of Road 23, just right at the dead end near Stillwater Creek. And I think that there's 2 dead elk out here.
So I went to investigate that, showed up, found it, looked at everything, realized, wait a minute, these elk weren't hit by a car. Why would there be 2 elk laying here deceased?
You seeing this? Yeah, it matches the sheriff's story, except there's 2 bull elk. The likelihood of 2 elk getting hit on these roads by cars the same night, very unlikely. Plus, there's no collision trauma to the bodies.
A neighboring officer came out there with me, and we decided, okay, we got something going on here. Why would there be 2 elk laying here deceased? Both of us get up there, we rolled an elk over, and immediately what stood out in my mind visually was most of the hair is missing off on one side of this animal.
Right.
And we roll the other one over, sure enough, same thing, the hair is missing off of most of the animal, which tells me that that elk, both elk, had been drugged. One thing that stood out to us once we rolled it over, okay, now each elk only had 1 spike.
Oh.
The other spike was removed from both of them. So one bull had 1 spike, the other bull had 1 spike. And then we did see a small section of a hind quarter that was missing.
Okay.
But that wasn't until we rolled it over.
But you don't see any sign of drag marks around?
Not yet. Usually on a poaching case like that, you're gonna have bloody rags and laying in the ditch, sometimes rubber gloves, a beer can, cigarette butts, hat, whatever. None of that was laying. So we're in the field, we're walking around, we see the drag marks here, so we're walking alongside it, and all of a sudden there's a spot where a piece of trash.
Ah. Yep. This wasn't an accident. All this.
A Mountain Dew bottle, I believe is what it was. And look down a little closer, there's some cigarette butts, burnt cigarettes, and 22 shell casings. They're all in the same area. I'm like, this has got, and there's blood on the ground. Okay, now we're on the right track. We got hair, we have blood, we have other things that may or may not be related to it, but the chance that these are not related is very slim. It's got to be related somehow. You know, a 22 round leaves a very small hole in an animal. And we didn't see a lot of, without spending more time with the elk, we didn't see a lot of small holes.
Right. You'd be looking for a bullet hole, which would be much larger for a rifle or something.
Correct. A centerfire rifle is going to leave a pretty big hole.
Yeah.
The ones we did find were a lot smaller, virtually no trauma to the animal.
Right.
The elk were not field dressed. They were not gutted. They were not. So we were thinking, okay, they're not, wherever they come from, there's not going to be much for blood because all the blood is still in the animal. The fact that we found some blood was, okay, wait a minute, we're on to something now. And now we realize, okay, maybe these are related somehow. It's in the back of our mind. The salvage tag in this, what are the chances of these two things relating to an elk happen at the exact same time and not related? We started kind of putting the puzzle together. Okay, we think these were probably shot at night, because this is in the morning when we found them. They're still pretty fresh. Shot at night, probably out of the vehicle, because we have tire marks in the field. So anyway, we started putting the puzzle pieces together and realized, okay, we got a poaching case here now. Then we decided, wait a minute, maybe they're connected. So we started with the officer that pulled the game warden over. We started with him. What a better place to start, you know? And eventually he started talking, and another fellow officer that he works with was named, and so we brought him in as well. And they started telling us kind of how it happened, which was fitting right in line with the evidence that we found. They were still trying to, you know, these officers don't know what's going on, so we're gonna kind of, you know, we're gonna give them a little story, but we got there. We realized what we had, and we got there.
You're interrogating another guy with a badge, so it got to feel a little bit strange.
It does. In the heat of the moment, when we're in the middle of it, we don't really treat them any differently.
Right.
They're just a person that, you know, made a mistake, and we're trying to get them to tell the truth. Well, we got there eventually. So we essentially worked the case. We basically stayed up all night, brought one person in, talked about it, brought the next person in, and brought some friends in, some more officers that were called to help that night.
Fellow police officers
that were called to help that night. And what they did, they admitted to joyriding at night, drinking beer, drinking whatever, off duty, obviously.
Hold on, there's a turn! Oh yeah, I've done this forever. Woo, yeah. Pull over, I gotta use the bathroom. No, until we get there. Oh man. Wait, whoa. I thought I saw something. Man, come on. No chance. No way, no chance. There's only one way to find out.
Elk don't move, and when they get hit by a light, so they just stood there. So hey, great opportunity. Let's have a thrill kill.
Don't get crazy now.
They admitted to joyriding at night, drinking beer, drinking whatever, off duty, obviously.
Wait, whoa. I thought I saw something. Wait.
Elk don't move, and when they get hit by a light, so they just stood there. So hey, great opportunity. Let's have a thrill kill. So they killed these two elk with handguns that night, decided to drag them home or somewhere, got lost in the field, remove some meat, remove one antler from each of them as a souvenir. Gotta take a souvenir. Gotta take your trophy.
Yeah.
And their buddies that came out there held the flashlight, held the leg up, did whatever. They were involved. They were involved, but they didn't kill the animals.
Right.
So we used them as witnesses, and they were really good witnesses to this crime. From what they saw, what they heard. Throughout the process, we have pictures, text messages, handguns, the actual items used to harvest the animals. We had all that stuff.
They shot them with handguns.
They shot them with handguns, a 40 caliber and a 9mm is what they used.
Okay.
And a big North American elk, that's not an easy task. So that essentially surprised us that they were successful in using that equipment to harvest these animals. So yeah, we basically solved the case. We put it all together, figured it out, realized this whole salvage tag was just a way for that officer to brag a little bit about having an elk, because he had to brag about that. That's what a suspect will do, is a guy makes a mistake, but he's got to brag about it. So figured out all the charges that we had. The guys confessed everything, gathered all the evidence, gathered all the statements. Now I get to put this case together.
Yeah.
And that is one of my bigger case files I've ever had, because we have a lot of evidence. We have we have these animals that they harvested, and in the end of the conversations with them, they actually admitted to harvesting more animals on previous dates. White-tailed deer, which was why they were out there, to kill more deer. They just happened upon these elk.
Yeah.
I think I tallied up 22 charges per person, so 44 charges, violations essentially, total, not charges, violations, and took it to the prosecuting attorney. He helped me narrow it down. Okay, this is what we're going to move forward with. But that upset him enough, he issued a bench warrant for each of these guys, give them a little bit more, hold them a little more accountable. So I went and arrested them, which is not something I really wanted to do.
I honestly didn't think it was that big of a deal.
You didn't have a license. You didn't have a tag. You spotlighted them and shot them. There's so many things wrong in this scenario.
Yeah, I understand.
Now I'm gonna have to place you under arrest. Stand up. Hands behind your back. Come on, man. You're a defender of the law. You should know better.
Sorry.
And they essentially now they're going to be held accountable for it. We never really saw a courtroom, meaning it wasn't a trial by jury, anything like that. It was basically, here's all your charges, you were arrested, but how are we going to move forward with it? But yeah, they paid several $1,000s in fines and were on probation and whatnot, but they were held accountable for it. And in the end, the game wardens were successful in figuring out the case and getting justice for those animals.
Chris, as officers and wardens often get involved in some complicated investigations involving poachers, but sometimes you get involved in stuff that is not really involved investigation.
I received a phone call from a farmer I knew that said his uncle had amassed a large collection of taxidermy, and they were looking at getting rid of these different pieces and wanted my help.
So why would they call you about that?
We routinely help people through sale of wildlife permits,
okay,
or even just to transfer to other family members, so that these different pieces can be, tracked legally to say that they weren't poached animals or anything like that.
They wanted to do this right and do it legally and make sure they worked, so they called you.
Warden's office.
And I said, okay, well, look, what are you looking at here? He said, well, we have 2 school buses full of taxidermy. And I said, how much are we talking? And he says, oh, we got everything in Saskatchewan, every species that the province has, we have one of. And we have a beluga whale.
A whale?
A beluga whale? How do you have a beluga whale in the most landlocked province in Saskatchewan?
A beluga whale. Okay. You said you're out past Highway 200? All right, we'll be out there soon. Thank you.
So he called me and just told me that his uncle's dad was a taxidermist who had amassed a collection from the 1930s and 40s, and it was displayed in the museum.
and eventually the museum had them remove it, so all these species went into these buses.
Did he say whale?
He said whale. Let's go.
All right.
We ended up heading out there, me and my partner, to kind of assess it and see what we were looking at. We drove out to this farmer, a quarter section of land, and met up with the uncle and the farmer.
Yeah, you're gonna need a mask.
Thank you.
This is bad.
And we immediately noticed some, like there's a lot of mouse droppings everywhere, a lot of dust on these animals, and just the stale air of 20 plus years of being sealed.
Years and years of prairie dust accumulating even through the cracks and holes in the bus.
100%, yeah. And so we masked up just because we were worried, would we pick up hantavirus or some other mystery illness from the 1970s when these buses were sealed up there. So yeah, we walked through the bus, started to do a bit of an inventory to see what we could see, and there was many species in there. Everything Saskatchewan has to offer, that's what it is. Maybe a deer, even where the bus driver would have sat at one point. When I walked up, looked to the left, there's a 14-foot beluga whale sitting right on the floor.
A beluga whale?
A white beluga whale, right in the middle of Saskatchewan.
How did that happen?
Well, I was a little hesitant to understand.
You must have been shocked.
Yeah, it was 100%. Like, how do I see a beluga whale right outside of Saskatoon in the middle of the prairies? So, yeah, right in the middle of the aisle, there's this massive beluga whale. We walked around. Of course, we had to take some pictures with it and some selfies, of course, because who else is going to believe that we have a beluga whale in Saskatoon, right?
Do you have a selfie of you and a beluga whale?
Yeah, I think we probably have a couple of lying around there, of course, there. But it was kind of a story I'd tell everyone all the time. They said, where would you get a beluga whale from? I'd just say, well, from a city bus in Saskatoon, where else?
So what ends up happening with them?
Yeah, so what we ended up doing is the one farm actually brought a big stock trailer out there. We made multiple trips to our compound, and we filled probably a 1,400 square foot warehouse full of different species. We looked at these animals one by one and assessed the condition of them and whether or not they would be, suitable to give out to somebody else. There's some family members that wanted a few pieces that were in good shape, and we had transferred those over to them through permits and stuff. But the ones that we could salvage, we were given to school groups, education groups, wildlife federation, stuff like that, where they could still display them, because a lot of the birds actually held up really well over time.
So how do you get the whale out of a bus?
Well, it wasn't easy. The front of the bus, you got that 90-degree turn to come out there. So there was a lot of, kind of just jockeying the animal in slow, methodical steps. But we were able to get it out in one piece. The tail was damaged on it before we had actually picked it up, probably when they put it into the bus. Right. But the farmer had actually purchased these buses to put all of these things in for storage, hoping that at some point they could be displayed in the museum again.
So you managed to wiggle and jiggle this beluga whale off the bus. Now, where does he go?
We kept it for a few years. Eventually, I was told by my bosses it was time to move on from it. And so I put it into the box of my truck, strapped it in, drove through the city, probably got many eyes looking at this.
You're driving down the street in Saskatoon with a beluga whale in your truck.
Yeah. It was an unmarked truck, so people may not have understood what was going on exactly. But we ended up taking it to the city landfill for disposal. When we went in and you weigh in and then you dump the animal or the taxidermy, and then on the way out you pay your tipping fees. And when I was paying my tipping fees to the gal, she says, "What was that whale made out of?" And I said, "Beluga whale." And she says, "No, seriously, what was it made out of?" And I said, "It was a beluga whale." And I don't think she believes me still to this day, but yeah, it's kind of, unfortunately, that's where it ended up over time. But
it's a whale of a story.
Yeah, for sure.
As a young officer in British Columbia, I was asked to go on a smelt patrol. Now, smelts are small herring-like fish that are caught with a gill net on a sandy beach. But this was no ordinary beach. It was the largest nudist beach in Canada, known as Wreck Beach. I was a little concerned at the time. I'm a shy 20-year-old farm boy, and I didn't know how my body would react to all this nudity. But I walked out onto the beach, in full uniform, of course, and proceeded about my patrol. I eventually was dealing with 3 people that had caught too many fish. They didn't have a license, and they were using too long of a net. I was standing there with my notebook, taking details, body scars, tattoos in places I'd never seen, when along behind them comes a man, a large man in every aspect, walking down the beach very proudly. He comes up right behind these 3 people and shows me his Vancouver Police Department badge and says, "These guys are okay, they're with me." I was a little taken aback by it, but I reminded him that these 3 people were being charged, and if he wanted to be part of the group, he would be charged as well. He folded up his badge, turned the other cheeks, and walked away. To this day, I still don't know where he pulled that badge from. Remember, wardens can be anywhere. Absolutely. He was naked. I swear, that's probably one of my better ones.